Welcome back, everybody, to a brand new episode of Words from the Scribe. It's been a while, I know. It's been a little while since I've sat down with anybody, but today's guest is somebody who I got to know about 12 months ago in the midst of the lockdowns in Melbourne the first time around last year. And he came to be christened the Mayor of Melbourne. And that guest, as you can see, is none other than Prosper Taruvinga. And if you've had the fortune of meeting Prosper before, you'll know he's a guy with infectious energy, a can-do spirit, and that's what earned him the nickname the Mayor of Melbourne. He's fantastic at tying people together, and he's somebody I'm happy to call a colleague and possibly even a friend at this point in time. But like I said, that's enough for me speaking at the moment. You can hear from the man himself. So first of all, Prosper, I want to say welcome and thanks for appearing on today's episode.
Ben, I appreciate your compliments and the introduction. You know, when you were saying all of those things, I had to take a step back and I'm like, who are they talking about? And then I just realized it's just us on the call. So thank you so much for this, Ben.
You know, it's funny that you say that. I remember, I don't want to toot my own trumpet here, but I remember back in primary school, there was a writing award being read out one year. I think I was in year 4. And the teacher up on the stage at the school presentation at the end of the year is reading this monologue about how great this student is at writing and everything. And I could feel my heart swelling as the teacher's reading it out. And then at the end he goes, and this year the award goes to Ben Mackey. And I'm just like, oh, I was 10 years old. I was stoked. So if it made you feel that good, then I'm honored.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what that tells me about that 10-year-old? That really felt that experience at that time. Most of the time, some kids don't, because we are suppressed by society from the get-go to never feel the exhilaration of actually being excited to hear your name, being spoken about. So congratulations to you. And that, I think that's the reason why you haven't stopped, moving forward with the way you've conducting yourself in business. So good on you.
Anyway, enough of the Mutual Admiration Society here. I'm sure people are wondering, what is your claim to fame here? Is it your book collection? Is it your collection of diamond sweaters? Perhaps you'd just like to quickly tell the people at home, Prosper, what service do you provide?
Absolutely. About the diamond sweaters, this is the first one, and I think I'm gonna start liking them. They're like my lockdown gear, best stuff. So we basically help small to medium businesses, make sense of their online space. And how we do that is we help them really, really find use of their digital marketing strategies. A lot of people are starting their business and they are not quite across everything else that they need to do in order to identify their market, really clarify the message, and then determine what media they can use to reach out to those people. So our job is to just really make it easy for people to reach their clients so that their businesses are profitable and enjoyable.
So basically you're helping your clients to reach new customers and to do so with clarity, the 3 C's.
Absolutely. That's the easiest way to put it.
There you go. There's a little motto you might be able to coin there: reaching new customers with clarity. But I'll leave that for a later point in time. So are there specific areas that you service, Prosper?
So my main offering is search engine optimization, which is basically helping people's websites get found on Google. So for that to sort of happen, some other modalities are needed. But yeah, when people come to us, they basically come around for search engine optimization strategies.
Okay, fantastic. So is that just Australia-wide, or you deal with overseas clients as well?
As of the last 2 years, we had just been looking at Australia, because in Australia, the type of people that we normally deal with usually have made a revenue of around 200,000 and are sort of going towards the $2 million mark. And there's about 825,000 of those businesses in Australia alone, according to the ATO as of 2020. So that has been keeping us busy. But since, the pandemic has come through, we have actually started venturing out and realizing that, some other countries are now open or have always been open to remote work. So we're also looking into those markets just so that we're not saturating, the Australian market, and also hedging our bets, because you never know when a lockdown is going to be put in place and we might lose a whole big chunk of our customers, just simply because of geographical restrictions.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. But again, that's a story for another day at this point in time. But it is funny, the whole double-edged sword effect. And had it not been for those different lockdown measures introduced last year, I probably would have met you had I flown down to Melbourne for a BX event. So yeah, I got to meet you without having to spend the money on airfares and accommodations. So that was definitely a plus. And I don't know about yourself, but I was just having a look the other day at my figures for the last financial year, and it was actually the best year that I've had business-wise in financial year. So I mean, there's that, but obviously the world doesn't revolve all around me or all around yourself, and it's what's going on in our greater communities. And you've really got to give credit to the small business community and to the people that you've met as well, just the same as myself, because just the resilience in people that I'm seeing, the resilience of our small business owners and those kind of people, those are the leaders that we should be listening to. These are the people who are working working from the ground up and have built their businesses and have been able to adapt in the last 12 to 18 months. And that, more than anything, is a testament to some of the people that we've got out there in Australia's business community.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people that I come across and usually the people that have survived this second wave are people that also did the same or started their business during the GFC. So now there is a sense of urgency, and they now have an understanding that, hey, this too shall pass. And when it does pass, you better have something you're holding on to. So a lot of people just maybe let the raft go, and now they no longer have anything to cross the river with, because they let go of their business, just thinking that, things are going to get back to normal. But it doesn't look like it. We've had 8 months of lockdown in Melbourne, and now we've just starting to go into stop-start, snap lockdowns here and there, which I now think is now becoming a thing of, becoming our now reality. So, yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's the new normal they were talking about, and that poses so many problems. But again, that's a discussion in itself that I'm sure we could spend many hours plowing through some way or another. But what would be interesting, I think, for the people at home is to give us an overview of how you got here today. Give us a little bit of your background story there, Prosper.
Fantastic. So, thank you for that, Ben. I was born in Zimbabwe. Do you know where that is?
I do. Are you from a certain city in Zimbabwe or from one of the smaller towns?
So one of the major town that a lot of people would relate to is Harare. Okay,
That's right,
so I was born just a little bit outside Harare, in a town called Chivu. So naturally, that is all I knew about my entire livelihood. Okay, so with that being the environment I was brought up in, let me just give a bit of context of the situation of what Zimbabwe was like when I was growing up and what it has now become. So Zimbabwe is now classified as one of the poorest countries in the world, but it wasn't always like this. We were the breadbasket of all of Southern Africa. So agriculture, education, we basically were supplying all of that up until a certain point. The government decided to end that in a way. And when that happened, our economy started to go downhill. Now, I was brought right about at the time of the cusp, when things were okay and when things started to go down. So I sort of saw both worlds of the country. But there now was a culture that was being formed and permeating within Zimbabwe, which meant that the president that we had stayed in the country for over 23 years at that moment, right? To put it into perspective, in Australia, 9 times out of 10, the prime minister does not last more than 3 or 4 or 5 years, or maybe
No.
2 or 3 days. You know what I mean? So you can imagine now, if we've had the same prime minister for about 23 years, things start to stagnate. All right. So that culture started happening even within corporate companies. So if a CEO has been a CEO for more than 3 or 4 years, he was not letting go of that position to, giving room for younger people to progress. Now, what that meant now is, if you are not part of the hierarchy, or if you are not born in a family that would at least end up in a position of power, or having a job to start off with, then your future and your hopes were blink, So that is sort of the environment that I grew up in, where we didn't actually have any role models and anybody else to look up to. And when I was 13, something changed in the whole spectrum of my life and what was now happening. A teacher that was a young student teacher came and started teaching at our school, and she was a maths teacher. All right. And when she arrived, she totally blew my mind in what was possible. First of all, let's not, I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect. In Africa, women are not really looked upon as leaders or teachers or people that can actually do anything in society. They're only just expected to grow up, get married, raise children, and be a homemaker. So that completely, broke my pattern of what was expected. And it challenged me to start looking at things in a different scope. And I kid you not, Ben, she was a maths teacher, and maths was the hardest subject any kid would ever have to endure at that age. So there she is, she's doing the hardest thing. She's not even from around here, and she's of a different skin color. So any boy my age, and I was 13 and she was cute, you would understand where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
You'd pay attention. All right. So so that now became an anchor in my life, that I decided upon myself, just like you felt when you were 10, that wait a minute, where I am and what I'm experiencing is not what maybe the rest of the world looks like. All right. And my horizons were now opened from that activity alone. So, that now just completely changed the course of my life. And from then on, I just started doing things that then led me to end up in Australia then. All right. But the thing that this teacher did that really, really became a challenge for me was, I think it's an Australian or a Western thing to say when you're leaving, hey, if ever you're in Australia or if ever you're in Melbourne, hey, just come and say hi.
Yeah.
So you can imagine saying that to a 13-year-old who's already talked up on testosterone and hormones and everything else that comes along. So I then made that into a challenge. I want to go and see her in Australia. All right. And little did I know that I was actually then creating the path, of what I've now become now. So I think 22 years later, I then arrived in Australia and started building my business like this. So the whole moral of the story is, you never know who you're influencing, or you never know what your work or what you say or do has an impact on a lot of people that are watching, and they might not be telling you right now.
No, it's actually interesting that last little bit you said there, and I'm actually keen to get into a little bit more of your story in a moment. But I had an old friend, and sometimes he'll relate stuff that I said to him years ago that I'd actually forgotten, but it apparently had a big impact on him, and just things that always came second nature to me that I know have had a big influence on other people that they found admirable, or that sort of stuff. And it's funny, isn't it? Because it doesn't really seem like a big deal to you. For your teacher, I'm sure she was just interested in the experience of going to the African continent and teaching over there and that sort of stuff. But she may not have even been considering the flow-on effect that it would have that would lead to you sitting here today talking to me based down in Melbourne. Like, it's just that little butterfly effect, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, a lot of caterpillars die before they become a butterfly.
Mm.
So nobody knows what the future holds. And even us freezing this moment in time in form of this video, this podcast, somebody might be listening to this or watching this in 2045 or in 2050, and maybe they are in their own self-driving vehicle and they're just watching what people from the olden days used to do. Yes, we used to pile up books. Yes, we used to have microphones that were not chips embedded in our mouths. And yes, we used to have gigantic headphones. They're not just microchips that you just plug into, or an earring that becomes an earphone. You know what I mean? So do not laugh at our technology, because we're trying the best that we can right now.
Don't. I just hope that in 2045 that hardcover books haven't been banned, and that it's not considered unusual and perhaps even heretical to be talking to you without a face mask on.
Or that, you see the thing about, we don't know what the future really holds, but the best part about it is we can plan it today, or we can plant the seeds and see how they, you know, culminate later on, because the best future is the one that you plan yourself, or the one that you start working on today.
That's it. Well, there was a movie that was made called Imagine, and it came out in 1930, and it was based on an idea of the future, or for them the future in 1980. And back in their idea of what 1980 would look like, people would have numbers instead of names, and people would fly in sort of flying like little helicopters everywhere, or hovercrafts, or take to land in hovercrafts, that sort of thing. But yeah, just this idea of the future, which in a lot of ways hasn't even come to pass today, and indeed has gone off in a completely different direction. It's interesting how people envisage what the future is going to be like, and even the people that spend the most of their time sort of studying up on this kind of stuff and making their predictions are usually no better than maybe 50-50 at best. There's just so many curveballs out there.
Oh, yes, you wouldn't know how it all works, but we are moving numbers at this current moment, because if you really look at it, your phone is just an IMEI number, which can be traced based on where you are and what plugins or what platforms you visit online, and then we can then start bombarding ads to you. So in a way, they could have gotten that part okay, but it's not as mainstream as I will call you, hey, Mr. 34. You know what I mean? Unless you are Mr. 305. What's his name?
Yeah.
People. You know, so some people have already lived to that level of society where they're just a number, you know, or a hashtag. So it's in various ways, that prediction.
Well, yeah, and the strange thing is, I don't know whether it's just a subconscious thing, the subconscious law of attraction working here, or there's something a bit more insidious going on. But I was thinking probably about a week ago, kept thinking of that expression, "Only the strong will survive." It's an expression that gets repeated a bit by Sensei John Kreese in Cobra Kai, which is a series I've watched at least once over, loved it. But I just kept thinking of that expression, "Only the strong will survive," and then one night I'm just about to doze off, wasn't quite ready to go to sleep, and I just queued up YouTube, and a completely randomly suggested video, because I haven't actually logged into my YouTube account on this TV. So it could just bring up anything, but it brings up this video with a guy talking, and the title is "Only the Strong Will Survive." So I'm just like, whoa, hang on. And so much of the stuff this guy was saying in sort of this 25-minute clip reflected a lot of what I've been thinking lately as well. So I'm wondering just how far along we really are.
Well, we might just be minutes away from it all. You know, this is all technology.
Maybe. But something else that I wanted to bring up, Prosper, like you post a fair bit on your Facebook page, and anybody out there, what's the name of your Facebook page, Prosper, for the people at home?
Absolutely. So my personal one is Prosper Taruvinga, which is my name, and my business one is Livelong Digital. So in case you find the connection, is Livelong and Prosper.
That's it. That's it. Fantastic name, by the way. I'm sure I've said that before. Um, what I'll do as well, Prosper, and people at home know this, is I'll post all the links down the bottom so people can go and join up. But yours is a group that I definitely recommend people join. There's always new content coming out and great discussions there. But it was something that you posted on that page, I think about 2 weeks ago now, and it was where you talked about the winter of 2016. And I'll take you back there now. The winter of 2016, you talked about not being able to pay for the heating, and you had a young child at the time, and just having to rug up under the sleeping bags and that sort of stuff. And the reason that story resonated with me is that I've always had a good mind for dates. I remember specific periods in time, and it probably helps because I've kept a journal for the last 9 years. So I can place it very well. But I was just thinking back to that period in time, the winter of 2016, and I know for me as well, like, 2016 as a whole was it was a hectic year. The best way I can put it is, imagine that you're climbing up the side of a mountain, and it's not a slow climb, like you're doing a brisk walk, like, and
Yeah.
whenever you get to take a rest, you can't rest for more than 2 minutes before you have to walk again. And that's pretty much what the whole of 2016 was like for me. And I remember that winter period was right in the peak of that, and it was cold. I mean, I was living on the Gold Coast at the time, but it was just funny reading your experience and relating that to what that year was like for me. Like, I think looking back now at the journal that I had, I think I was probably like 2 months, maybe away, 2 or 3 months away from just having a complete burnout if I didn't change what I was doing. But I'm wondering, how does that feel for you when you think back to something that was only 5 years ago now, and you look at the position that you're in now? Is it a feeling of relief? Is it a feeling of a sense of achievement? Like, how do you feel just reflecting on what was the story of your life just 5 years ago compared to where you are now?
Fantastic. And I'm really touched that you noticed that post, because that post, first of all, is a very vulnerable post. A lot of people in my position and in my, station would not go about trying to bring about anything that doesn't put them in a good light. But
Mm.
for me, I'm actually grateful for that moment. I actually took a selfie. Unbeknownst to me, the selfie is what I then used later on when I was going through my stuff, But at that moment for me, I was actually just grateful that I've got my family. I was just grateful that my little girl is lying on me. And for me, yes, obviously we wanted the comforts of, now that I've experienced warm weather and I've experienced the cold, you would always want to be comfortable at any given moment. But I'm grateful for that actual period, because it strengthened me, and it made me realize that I can go through just about anything, because if you're looking at your loved ones and you have to rug them up, and you can't provide them with the basic human need, which is warmth, homeostasis, which is the lowest rank of the the hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
That's
then
it. Yeah.
as a man, you start to even question your own existence. Am I even there? And
Yeah.
to think that I was being stubborn at that time, that I'm gonna I'm gonna see this through. I'm not gonna go back to a job, or I'm not gonna even do anything for anyone until I've seen this through. I'm really grateful for that moment, because I think that was my caterpillar to butterfly stage. Because had anyone given us a hand out or some sort of help or assistance, then I wouldn't have really gone through that time and had a good story to tell after that. So looking at that picture and telling that story, I'm also looking to really reinforce to other people that, yeah, don't be looking at the rocks that I got. I'm still Jenny from the block. Used to have a
Yeah.
little, but now I have a lot.
Yeah.
According to great lyricist and singer-songwriter Jennifer
Lopez.
Lopez of from Mexico. So for me, you see, I'm also utilizing this point, because obviously the emotion that I would have gone through then, I obviously don't want to relive it, but I want to put a joke or a twist to it so that future me can no longer look back at that and say, and feel bad, but use that as a moment to appreciate that I needed that in order to be able to have a moment with great men like yourself, Ben.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. But it's interesting as I'm talking to you about this, you can see that trophy just over my shoulder, that boxing trophy there,
Yes,
and that was
fighting man.
yeah, and
Yes.
that was actually back in 2016, that experience, and I wrote about that actually in an article where I just talk about this 10-week boxing program that I did sort of in the winter and the spring of that year, and that was one of the best experiences of my life, and it seemed to really just correlate with what was going on a weekly basis in my life at that point in time, and you're right. Like out of those other, what you might think are otherwise bleak experiences, you take some stuff where it's only when you look back, you go, yeah, you know what, there was actually stuff happening there. And I've spoken about that a few different times in articles that I've written and that. So like I said, it was probably just the timeline as well that you described it in, because I could kind of correlate that with what was happening in my own life at that point in time. Like I didn't have a family that was having to rug up over that winter and stuff, but man, like I was on my feet. It was just like every week there was some new fire to put out. There was some new problem I had to deal with. And you come through that, and you're absolutely right. You learn from that. You go, well, these situations might come around again, but if I can handle them differently, if I can manage them better, I'll end up better at the end instead of weaker. Absolutely. So look, I did want to just ask you as well, thinking of everything that you've talked about so far, is there a standout lesson that you've learned along the way, whether on a personal or a professional level, and what would it be?
Fantastic. You see, I viscerally believe that we are all here to live, and we're here to learn, and we're here to contribute. So, like you mentioned, if you look behind me, I'm consistently and continuously learning, because each and every book that's in my bookshelf right now represents something that I don't know yet.
Mm.
Now, if you put yourself in that position that you would actually walk into a room that is confrontational every single day, that each book on my shelf represent knowledge that I haven't acquired yet, that humbles you. That humbles you a great deal. And people might think, oh, why do I keep all these books? Because I'm surrounding myself with the constant reminder that you're not even scratch the surface of what you need to know about life, because there are round about 7 aspects in our lives, which is, I don't know if I'm going to be able to mention them all, but you've got your mindset, you've got your relationships, your social status, you've got your vocation, and then you've got your spirituality, and then your relationships, and maybe how you have your own self-esteem. Each and every one of those pillars or aspects is something that we fundamentally have to know intricately for us to be able to show up as the best version of ourselves every single day.
Absolutely.
And that's the reason why, and that's the reason why a lot of people fall short, because maybe they just major in one particular thing and forget the rest of the other things. And that's the reason also why society is torn between the haves and the have-nots, because somebody might appear to have a lot of money, but has got the worst relationships.
Yeah.
Because they value accumulation of money, all right, but do not value the curation and creation of relationships. And then you find somebody who's got the best health, but they are poor as a church mouse.
Yeah.
And then you start thinking to yourself, maybe if I become healthy, I become poor. Or if I become rich, I have low relationships. But if you actually then become a conductor and you play the symphony, all right? When you do your health stuff, you do your mental stuff, you do your wealth stuff. Whenever people see me at any given moment, I'm giving the best version of who I am at that particular moment, just in case that's the last time they're going to meet me. or see or hear about me. I want them to have a clear representation of the person that they met at that particular moment. So if I'm around my kids, I'm be the best dad those kids have ever met. And I'm hoping I'm the only one. And if I'm around my clients, I want to be the best service provider that they have ever encountered with. And if you notice, most of the people that I hang around are actually my clients. It's people that are paying me. A lot of people cannot do that. They don't mix that side of their work because they are afraid they will get caught out, because they are showcasing a totally different person than who they are all throughout. So that's the learn side of things. All right. And once you've learned all of those things, I can guarantee you have the best quality of your life. And
Absolutely.
at any given moment, all you just got to do is contribute back, like send the elevator down, help other people be, do, and have a happier existence as well. Just like I had that teacher, even unbeknownst to her, she sent the elevator down for me. All right. And for me, this metaphor is something that I do even in a building. Whenever I go to a building and I go to whatever floor I go to, I press the down button before I leave, just in case somebody's waiting for it downstairs.
That's something I might have to adopt. No, it's interesting you mentioned that. I've just recently a colleague of mine who I catch up with on a fortnightly basis, another business owner as well. And I've just been going through with him about how to organize your week and that sort of stuff, because that's something I've been big on for ages. And that follows an experience I had about 9 years ago where an old friend downloaded the entire Tony Robbins 10-part series, Time of Your Life, onto my trusty laptop. And I listened that whole series the whole way through. And that completely changed just the way that I would organize my week, the way that I'd set goals for the coming year. And also as a result of that, what I do is I keep a graph. And you were talking about balance. I was just showing this colleague of mine the other week how to put together a pie chart that has 8 different sections. And it's all designed to, as you said, be the best you can be in every different section. So you can straight away look at, okay, if I'm doing really well in the financial section of my life, but not so well in terms of pursuing my interests, maybe I need to do more things that actually make me happy, more things that I'm happy doing. Maybe I need to work more on my relationships and that. And that's everything, as you said, because you don't just want to be for lack of a better word, just a shell of a person that has all your best qualities. It could just be taken away from you from, one bad financial decision or one relationship breakdown, and to lose it all. You're absolutely right. You want to be everything. You want to have everything.
And once you have all of that in play, you have it all in unison. It's a beautiful gift to give to whoever you come across.
Yeah.
Because you are the only Ben Marquis in the world. Now, if you give us a half-baked Ben, then you have shortchanged the world of experiencing what you could have been.
That's right. That's absolutely it. And the funny thing is, I know of at least one other Ben Mackey in the world, and he's actually a cousin of mine. That's a whole other story. But so there are other Ben Mackeys in the world, but yeah, you're right. You have all the specific ingredients that you can meet other people that are very similar to yourself, but only you have all those specific ingredients. And if you don't, yeah, I agree. If you let yourself down, if you shortchange yourself, you are shortchanging all the other people that you come into contact with. You are shortchanging them because in some way you aren't either directly pushing them or inspiring them to just go that little bit further and to do more. Because, as in your own case, as in my case as well, it's because of other people that you meet, or maybe other people that you never met, but other people that you saw and inspired you, that can just flip that little switch between, playing it safe and just aiming a little bit higher.
Absolutely. All right. Ever heard of a guy called Roger Bannister?
Yeah, I've heard of Roger Bannister.
All right. So Roger Bannister is the first person who ran a mile in 4 minutes.
That's right.
And prior to him, no one had ever been able to do that. And after him, millions of other people went ahead and broke that record. just because he showed up and told the world that it was possible. Just like what we've experienced in the last couple of days, a tremendous point in history where Richard Branson takes one of his toys and reaches orbit. Whether people agree that he did or he did not, but this is somebody who created something from zero that never existed and gave us the gift for us to be able to talk about. It is a gift to be able to see this in our time, in our time timeline.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So there are things that happened. First flight, we were never able to experience that. All right. The first maybe phone, we were never able to experience that. But now we have experienced jet propulsion into stratospheric areas, and now we know it's possible.
Yeah.
And since yesterday, I've seriously started looking into AI because I was just thinking it's something for the future. Nobody cares about that. But I know now that him opening up that chasm into space, there's going to be a lot of data that needs to be recorded about a lot of things, about how space interacts with Earth and how we can start marketing those trips to space. And definitely AI needs to be involved in that. So can you imagine what that little step he did?
What it's done. Yeah. Well,
what it's done for humanity.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. You mentioned that. I think of Felix Baumgartner. Remember the guy who jumped from the edge of the atmosphere, and it was live streamed. It was back in, I think it was 2012 or 2013, but I remember staying up till the early hours with some mates and just to watch it. And I had some other mates who just didn't last the distance and ended up falling asleep. But yeah, I just wanted to stay and watch it. And then he gets to the edge of the Earth's atmosphere and then just dives. I was like, wow, man, like game changer right there. When something like that happens, you're absolutely right. Like sometimes you think, oh, this is going to be a big deal. And it doesn't turn out that way for whatever reason. And then there's other times where you see something like that. I imagine it was the same way for people watching the moon landing. But you see something like that, and it's always remembered for all the right reasons and the impact that it has and the flow-on effect that it creates.
Absolutely. I watched that Felix event as well. But do you know now what Branson did? Branson, first of all, really, really rewrote history. And during the time when the Wright brothers were trying to initiate, flight, they were other people that were, gunning for first position. So what Richard Branson did is he first went ahead. I think it's 11 days ahead of the person who had said they are actually gonna go ahead. All right. And what he also did, I think you saw that picture he has with Elon Musk.
That's right.
All right. So he went in and he only had to go to the only person who would not tell him no. So all of those steps that he took and prepared a speech that he was going to say while he's in orbit, so that speech becomes a quote. So Felix did not do all of those things. That wasn't publicized. He was just doing it for the fun of it. And they were probably testing certain things. It just happened to have Red Bull written all over it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
but this is commercial. And this was an advert. And that's the reason why it's stuck, because people sat down, looked at what the triggers would be, what needs to happen for it to actually have a lasting and resounding success and memory. And we just have salesmen that have a lot of money, and now they're playing with their rockets.
That's it. The flow-on effect. Look, well, I mean, we've just talked about someone like Richard Branson, who started a business in his garage, and obviously Elon Musk as well, who had to start somewhere. But to anybody out there who's starting a business or has just started a business, what would you say is the most important piece of advice that you'd offer them? Like, what do you think it is they should be keeping in mind above all else?
do work that matters for people who care.
Mm.
When you do work that matters, you're fulfilled. When you do work that matters, you are rewarded. And the more fulfillment and rewards that you get, you stay the course. All of these tricks, books, cold showers, 4 a.m. wake ups are not going to make a difference if you're not providing value to the marketplace.
No, absolutely not. And it's, I mean, we've all heard of Pareto's principle, but it's just funny how you can hear it addressed so many different ways. And then you hear another way it's addressed that just makes you, it sort of revigorates you. And like I said, I was talking about the Tony Robbins Time of Your Life series, and I've just started listening to it back again, which is probably the third time or maybe the fourth time I've listened to it back, because I always get something new, because you think there's 10 episodes and they go for about an hour each, an hour and a half each. So, and you know, Tony packs so much stuff into these segments, as you know. But just yesterday I was listening to one in the car, and he said 20% of the work that you do is going to get you 80% of the results. And I know for me, that's something I've had to rethink over the last 12 months. And I've discussed this with this colleague of mine that I mentioned earlier, that I've had to become okay with working less and just focusing on less things that are actually getting me more results. And, you know, instead of just doing work for the sake of doing work, you're right. When you focus with laser point accuracy on those few little things that are actually getting you the best results, and getting you along the path the furthest. It's those things that you focus on, and you get so much more clarity, and surprise, surprise, you have more energy as well.
Oh, absolutely. Because if there's a reward, system that goes with everything that we do. Mm-hmm. And if you are getting accolades, all that we've been talking about is when you were 10 years old and you were winning a prize, and the time when you won that boxing trophy. People are always looking for what's in it for me. What do I stand to gain? Even if it's not financial, all right? We gain, accolades in terms of people saying, oh, because of you, I did not give up. Oh, because of you, my business has become better. Oh, thank you so much for doing this. It changed my life somehow. All that we have been talking about is cause and effect. So if you really look at the things that you can cause, all right, because one thing that a lot of people don't realize is we might have set on this call, I don't know for how long, maybe 30 minutes or 40 minutes, etc. But we get to keep that which we give away.
That's it.
All right. So both you and I, we've created something right now. And guess what? We're both going to be treasuring this, because we're going to post it and get other people to watch it and have, learn from it. If we both had not done this in the same time you were in your office doing whatever you're doing, if I was in my office reading or working on clients' work, none of that matters.
Nah. Because
that was only for us. But if you do something for others in a way that they would treasure, then you get to keep that time. Now, if you start giving so much that the 8 hours that you're working throughout the day, you get to retain more of them, you actually start getting a sense of fulfillment. All right. So naturally, this is what I've started doing. If I'm not working, I'm reading, and I'm plowing back that time back to me. The time that you see posts and stuff off of social media, that is a reward for me. So I read for 25 minutes and I reward myself with 5 minutes of social media interaction. But that 5 minutes is so impactful, because I know I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to do the most of it.
You're right. Yeah.
So most people, when they get started in doing work, or when they get started, they don't understand the concept of actually giving in order to actually get. So if you give, you are investing back in yourself, because then more things are going to return back to you in whatever you've given out there. So if you're going to wait until you're ready, or you're going to wait until everything is set, all that time that you're spending with yourself and not putting yourself out there and sharing it with other people and creating memories with them, that's wasted time.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you're absolutely right. I know a lot of these podcasts, like it's just talking heads for most of the time. So I'm absolutely not offended if people do what I've sometimes done. I literally just finished a painting that I was working on a few days ago. And I know that the whole time I was doing that painting, I was listening to podcasts or I was listening to YouTube videos that, again, are just in some cases, just a single image with people talking in the background. So if there's somebody out there who's listening to this while they're driving along or while they're working on a project or they're doing housework or something, and if they get something from that, yeah, 100%. If they can take something away from this that just changes the trajectory that they're on just a little bit, and it's just that little bit, that little 0.1% of a change that ends up leading to massive chasms of difference, then yeah, it was absolutely worth every minute that we spent.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
you've created a good platform, sir.
I like to think that I have, and continuing to build. Like I said, I haven't actually posted video in a fair while just because I've been tending to other things, namely getting my new website up and running, which is a work in progress. But yeah, look, it's absolutely worth it if you can produce good content and people actually take something positive from that. If you know, both of us talking here today is the equivalent of your maths teacher in high school or some of the people that I've met, then fantastic. Hopefully it's a timeless thing. But look, for the people at home, Prosper, why should they give you or your team a call?
Half of the time when we work with people, we really make the hard things easy, right? When you look at digital marketing and when you look at social media, the internet is only plus or minus 25 years old.
Yeah.
All right. So we have been in it for a fair amount. So making it easy for you to actually identify your target market, clarify your message, and then determine what media is the best to use at that particular moment. You shorten the learning curve. All right. And you don't spend a lot of time, money, and effort with false starts, you know, because we have been doing this for God knows how long.
Okay. That's a pretty good call to action right there, guys. Now, besides your high school maths teacher, Prosper, are there any other shout outs that you'd like to give?
Absolutely. You know, in my business world, I basically am sitting and standing on shoulders of giants. The first person I'd like to give a shout out to is you, Ben. Obviously, you giving us your platform like this. You never know who's going to listen to this, watch this, or be entertained or educated by this. So on behalf of all of humanity, anyone that has a smartphone that will be privy to this information, I thank you. Now, I would also want to really, really give a massive shout out to my wife, who basically, without her, I wouldn't be able to do most of the things that I'm able to do. Working from home, now it's lockdown and the kids are at home, she's looking after them. And I basically, you know, am just part of that family too, but she's doing all the heavy lifting just so that we both have a happier existence. So that too. I also have a big shout out to BX, Matt, and Laws for having connected us, Ben. There are a lot of people that might not realize that all these synergies that are being created, you know, out there was just because they had an idea and they followed through on that idea. And I have coaches, consultants, and books that I've read, which are far too many to mention, but I really do just appreciate anybody that has ever been in contact with me in their life, because it's because of them that I actually show up every single day, because I want them to look up to me as an idea that they too can be, do, and have whatever they want. So
100%.
yeah.
And look, as I've said to you only fairly recently, man, I think there's definitely at least one book in you, at least one book or one ebook, possibly both, possibly the hardcover edition, the special signed hardcover edition and the ebook edition, where I know that you could talk, you know, for much more longer than the time we've got today about just everything. And I think people would get would get such great value out of that. But look, I want to thank you again for giving us your time today, Prosper. Like we've been talking for almost an hour, so like just the amount of value in that 55 minutes and counting that we've been talking is just phenomenal, man. So thanks again for coming on today, Prosper. And for the people at home, remember, I will provide all the links, not just to Livelong Digital, but also to the Facebook page and the rest of it there. So I highly recommend you get in contact with Prosper and his team if you want a digital presence that makes a difference. So yeah, thanks again for coming on today, Prosper.
Ben, I appreciate you for making the time and the effort to make this possible. So thank you.
Fantastic. All right, guys. Well, that brings another episode of Words from the Scribe to an end, but you'll be able to find all the links down below. And hopefully next time, it won't be so long until I talk to you again. To those of you watching at home, catch you later.